Hi, Sam.
Hi, how are you? I didn't know we were going to be seen in this webinar.
It's weird. Am I flipping back and forth to you?
Are you what?
When you talk, it flips to you, and then when I talk, I think it flips to me.
Yeah, it kind
Are you
of,
seeing?
it mutes you when I talk.
It does.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I think there's a way, like, if someone wants to, like, ask a question, I think there's a way that you can, I think it's called, like, raise your hand, and you can see, like, someone is trying to.
Yeah. I don't mind. What I'm thinking is if people have an unmute and then just unmute if they have a question, that would be fine.
That's a good idea.
It's just weird with the screen flipping back and forth. I haven't seen that before.
Oh, the screen doesn't flip. Just like
when I talk, it's me on my big screen, and then when you talk, you show up on my big screen.
Maybe it's because you're the
moderator. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. This is your last group of classes, right?
Yeah, these are my last two.
That's great. And
yeah, how's the doctorate going?
What?
How's the doctorate going?
Oh, it's going.
Work is good.
Accounting treating you?
It's really good. I like it. We just started our busy season, so
Yeah,
after this, I have to work a little bit, but it's good. I like it a lot.
good. Which clients are you on?
I have Westfield, Greylock, Adams, Florence, Munson, Peoples. Who else do I have? I've like been on some to kind of help them with ICQs and SOX testing.
Yeah.
But they're not like my year-end clients. They have me doing taxes over the summer just so that I don't have like free time. And then they have me, I don't know if like when you were out with, I think IT did GLDs. Well, now we're doing them. So I'm doing those too. So
fun.
It's good.
That's really good. I'll wait a couple more minutes. I don't know. I should have probably taken a poll of who would be signing in, so I'm not really sure.
Well, there's not a lot of people in the class because this isn't like one of the regular.
No, there's 7 total, including yourself. So 6 others.
I've worked with with Sam. With Sam and Katara before.
Yeah.
And Frank.
That's good. Yeah, they're all good, and all of you are finishing this last.
That's awesome.
Classes. Yeah, and you're in the controllership course too, right?
Yep.
How's that going so far? I know it just started.
Good. We just had reading to do before today, so it's a busy Monday for me, I guess. But it's good. All the classes have been really good. All the professors are really, they're really I guess structured, so there's like no second guessing like what you have to do and stuff. So that's good.
That's good. I see Frank. All right. Hi, Frank. Are you able to? I think you're on mute, but maybe if you unmute yourself, perhaps you can join into the conversation. Give him a minute. Oh, can you hear? There you are. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. I don't see your pictures. And Katara, I see you've signed in as well. I think you're still on mute too. Oh, I see you, Frank. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Sam on the line, and then
flipping thing.
And I hear Katara, I think. How are you?
Good.
Good. So what I'll ask, we'll get started in just a minute. I'll just wait another minute here to see if anybody else is signing in. But I'll ask each of you to just mute your lines until you have any questions, and just feel free to jump in at any time. We'll make it a real open dialogue conversation, and so again, just jump in. I am recording this broadcast, so I will post it onto a YouTube video right into our course, just to rewatch if you need to. But my goal would be to first walk through the syllabus, and then just walk through the outline of the course, and then introduce the topic for this week. So I think we should be able to achieve that in under an hour. But feel free, if you have any need to sign off or whatever the case may be, that I will be recording it. You can watch it another time. But I'm glad you were able to call in, and I'm looking forward to this course. I think just about everybody is at the end of this program, so that must feel really good to have just 1 or 2 classes remaining. So congratulations on that. And let's get started. So to start, I'm going to share my screen, and I'll just ask maybe if somebody tells me if they can see the syllabus in just a moment here. Hopefully you'll see the shared screen. Can everyone see that Word document?
You're good.
Okay, good. So to start, and this would be how I'd conduct to the beginning of any on-ground course as well, just walking through the syllabus and the expectations for the course. Most of you know right where my office is, right in 17 Emerson House on the Long Meadow campus. So although this course is virtual, feel free to meet with me on campus. We can make appointments at any time. I would like to keep this time open for a weekly conference call, and maybe kind of make it even an office hour time to ask questions that maybe the whole class would benefit from that don't make sense for me to meet offline. But really, we can make any additional office hours as you see fit. And maybe I can take a poll, and if Mondays at 7 are not really the most appropriate time, we can think about another time. But my goal on most Mondays, aside from today, would be to spend about a half an hour and just really talk about the week's learning objectives, kind of give my perspective on what I view the most important points to be, and just to clarify any points of confusion going into the week. But I think you'll find most weeks will be pretty consistent setup. I'll show you what the Canvas course looks like. I saw most of you popped into it already, but just so you can really see the layout and the expectations. So again, you're in the advanced auditing course. I think almost half the class is in currently working in public accounting, and one person I believe has passed the CPA exam. So there are a lot of people coming from a variety of backgrounds in terms of auditing, but this course really will help everybody. We start with a principal foundation and move right into intermediate and advanced topics. So it will help you further your career, whether you plan to go into auditing or just to become more well-rounded in the accounting field. And then for those of you who wish to move on and pursue the CPA exam, you see that one of the assigned textbooks is a Wiley CPA text. So we'll be pulling exam questions to have some focus on the CPA exam as well. So the overall description of the course, we are, we're looking at that key terminology. We're going to go back to basics to make sure that that real key understanding and terminology is understood. We will be looking at case studies and going through different parts of the audit. We'll be looking at academic journals that I'll go into to see what kind of the hot topics are out in the auditing profession and critiquing those. And then, as I've stated, looking at some of the exam, CPA exam content. So overall, well-rounded course in regard to just a lot of different aspects of auditing. So I'll only talk about the course learning objectives, but it's really to understand the audit theory and how it relates to auditing financial statements. We will be looking at internal controls and fraud risks associated with businesses, looking at the overall audit in general, starting with the planning process, moving through evidence and collection and documentation. And then we do go as far as completing the audit. So that actually goes back up to the first one of auditing the financial statements, looking at analytical reviews, statistical sampling, test of controls, and substantive tests. So most of you have taken a traditional undergraduate audit course already, but this course, it will have some similar aspects. Like I said, we'll go back to the basics to make sure a lot of that is very clear to you, but we'll definitely be kicking it up to that next level of getting into more analytics, more statistical sampling, and just a heavier level of academic knowledge. So you should have seen the program outcomes already on all of your syllabi throughout this program because those are consistent, so you can read those as you wish. The two textbooks that we are requiring is the Wiley Principles of External Audit book, and that one's very textbook-centric, and we're pulling the self-review questions from this, the additional readings from this, so we will be very focused on this textbook. And then the Wiley CPA review was a good option to be looking at these CPA questions. I've tried to associate these chapters between both textbooks together, so for the most part you'll be learning the same thing within each textbook, but I think it's important to bring that CPA textbook. My ultimate preference to CPA textbooks would be Becker. That's what I'd used to study for the exam and found a lot of success with that. But Wiley was definitely a book that I've used for supplemental resources, and it's significantly cheaper than Becker. So for the purposes of this course, it will definitely help introduce you to the exam. But when you do plan to move on to fully studying for the exam, I don't think that this text alone would be enough, and we can talk about different strategies and plans for that. Can everyone still hear me? Can I just check in to make sure I haven't lost anybody?
You're good.
Okay, thank you. I can't see you because I'm scrolling through the syllabus, so just stop me if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions. The rest of this is a lot of your basic understanding here with late policies, attendance policies, as far as we can with an online class. Academic integrity I do take very strictly and take it seriously. that if at any time I feel that there might be something that just doesn't feel appropriate to me, I really take it out of my hands and place it right to our academic integrity committee, and they evaluate, how the behavior is in line with our code of ethics. So I think as accountants, we all want to act in the best ethical behavior and as human beings as well. But just take that seriously, that it's an online class. I know that, you can work with each other to a certain degree, but the product that you're turning into class really needs to be your own. And again, if I feel something's a little bit off, I just kind of report it right to the committee and let them evaluate the situation, just to be fully clear on my process with that. For any students who have any type of disability, we have a wonderful center that can help with any type of documenting accommodations. And if you don't want to go to that extreme, I'm more than happy to speak with you offline and make accommodations if necessary. All of you have taken our online courses already, so you're pros at how Canvas works. We'll just kind of skip through a lot of this. You should have the IT help desk with any issues. Unfortunately, I'm not a Canvas expert in the sense of if something's just off in your system, you really do need to work through our IT department. So let's get into the meat of this. Here's the method for the determination of the grade, and I'll talk about what each of these areas consist of. So the self-review questions will come from the chapter in your Principles of External Auditing book. So for instance, week 1, you're assigned chapter 1, a brief reading in chapter 2. I'm not requiring any self-review questions. And then chapter 3. So if you happen to have your book and just open chapter 1, you'll see that at the end of the chapter, for chapter 1, starting on page 18, there are about 10 self-review questions. Those are coming directly from the textbook. So for me, it's a proof that you've opened the textbook, you've done reading of that chapter, and that you can answer these questions in an intelligent type manner. It's 20% of your grade. I believe each chapter will take approximately an hour per chapter to complete these self-review questions. So I don't think, and the chapters are relatively small. Even at 18, pages, it's a small book and it's big type. So you should be able to get to through these chapters, with relative ease, and then answering these questions in the end really help to ensure that you just feel comfortable with the information that you've been given. So that's the requirement for the self-review questions. They're all right from the book that you'd answer in a Word document and then post it right into Canvas. And I'll show you after where you can post that information. The article review essays are an interesting enhancement, actually, to this course. So in this Principles of External Auditing book, at the end of each chapter, you will see a section called Additional Readings. For each week, you will choose one of these articles to read between the chapters that you've been assigned. So this week, you've been fully assigned chapter 1 and 3. You will choose one of the readings from either of the chapters. So read through the titles and hopefully find a topic that you're interested in. I'm looking at the ones in the Principles of External Auditing right now, and they have agency conflicts, voluntary audit versus mandatory audits, mythical representations of trust. So I think you'll find some topics that hopefully will be very interesting to you. I've included where you can find these additional readings. Generally, just going right through a Google search, you can find these. I find a lot of success using googlescholar.com, and I've put this in Canvas, so you have this information of where you can find them. But you search for the topic or the actual article or pronouncement and find it, read it, and then you're doing a brief summary on the article and then about half a page of your own thoughts. So the overall review essay that you're completing each week should be approximately 2 pages in an APA format. And if you're not really familiar with APA, I can send you some rules on that. But just to make sure that you're properly referencing everything. But again, it's finding the one article, doing a summary on that article, and then some of your own thoughts on that article. And this type of review is definitely high-level graduate work. Some of the other things, the self-review questions, I don't think, are, it's not really something that you're adding to the thoughts here. You're really just making sure that you're familiar with these key concepts, where this is broadening your thinking, really thinking through higher-level thoughts that are out in the industry. So I think, hopefully you can bring these topics into your workplace and discuss these different articles that you're reading, because they're pretty relevant in terms of dates. Most of them are very current. And, if in the week you find a topic that you're very interested in and want to do a little research on and find an additional journal article of some sort, you could write about that as well. I'd approve that. So hopefully that makes sense. And the class discussions for this class are probably different than most classes that you've been a part of. For the class discussion, you will actually be looking at your fellow students' articles that they've posted and have summarized. And you are going to rank those articles from 1 to 7 in this case. There are 7 people in this class. So from 1 to 7, just to get a sense of, how you think each student did. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but to put that out there. But then you will be posting a 150-word write-up on your thoughts regarding their article as well. So not only will you be, actually producing an essay of your own, you'll be commenting on other people's additional readings. So even to further enhance just the ideas of what are going out in the auditing industry right now. So I think it's different, but I think, it's graduate quality and something that is interesting and outside of the normal course of a textbook or even the CPA exam. So that makes up 15% of your grade. The article reviews, the essays that you'll actually post, this is the one criteria in the class that I have a real weekly deadline for, in terms of you need to post your article review by Friday night by midnight. This allows the other students in the class the weekend to be able to critique your article. Everything else I ask for can be due by Sunday night by midnight. So the course will always open up at 12 midnight on Monday. So, I've thought about, keeping them open or allowing, whatever, but I think opening it up and giving you that fresh start to the week is the best kind of approach to this course. But again, the article review essay needs to be posted by Friday night of that week. Everything else is due by Sunday night. So if the weekends are really your best time to work on the weekends. There's no posting requirements during the week unless you choose to do so. Is there a question?
Yes. I don't know if my microphone's on or not.
Nope, I can hear you.
Okay, a couple questions actually. In regards to the self-review questions,
Yes.
are we able to just take the information, write out the text, or are
Yes.
you?
Yep.
Okay.
It does not have to be in your own words.
Okay.
You can type it just as you see it in the text. So again, my main goal with these self-review questions is proof that you've opened the book, you've read the chapter, you're answering, you've read the question, and you're trying to find, where the answer comes from. These key questions really coincide with the learning objectives, which I will discuss each week through video lecture. So you'll hear me talking about the learning objectives. You will be reading the book and answering these questions to make sure, that you're comfortable with the material in the book. But yes, they can come exactly from the book. They don't need to be in your own words.
I have another question, but I'll
Sure.
save it if somebody else has another question first.
No, go right ahead.
Okay, in regards to the article review essays,
Yes.
so I want to make sure that I understand. There's 7 people in the class, so I have to read 6 other students' article summaries, and I have to say that somebody came in last place.
Yes. So you're just doing a review on Just and it's not even last place. It can be what you found most interesting.
So
And it's
that's what I'm wanting more clarification on. How are we ranking people based upon what?
based upon your take on their article. So an article that you were interested in, you were very interested in this article, you're going to rank it number 1. You thought that they did an excellent job in their review, you rank it number 1. It's somewhat arbitrary. It's just kind of thinking in terms, it helps me to think, what other people are thinking of these writings. It's giving you an opportunity to review another student's essay and just kind of, rank. If it's nothing to really stress about, if you feel that, you can't really make a decision on the top 1, give 2 people a 1. I mean, it's really just kind of a way for me to see how students are valuing each other's articles.
Does that same thing goes for the bottom? I mean, I don't think I would struggle with who's number 1, but I don't think I feel really comfortable saying, this person came in 6.
Yeah. Again, I think it's part of the review process that you have to come up with some ranking in your mind. And the grade is not really based on your ranking per se, and the other person's grade is not necessarily based on your ranking. It's really for me to see if somebody's overwhelmingly finding this student's articles stand out for their knowledge. It helps me just kind of hone in on what they're doing differently than maybe the other students. But I wouldn't think much about it. Just use your gut and rank them 1 through 6.
And then we have to give...
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if it would make other people feel more comfortable. Is it possible that we can do the ranking anonymously? That way,
Sure.
No one really feels that you're kind of throwing anyone, quote unquote, like under the bus or
I would
anything?
be fine with that.
Okay.
So I'll set up a submission that the rankings other people don't see.
Thank you, Samantha. I think that was excellent.
Great idea.
I have a question.
Sure.
Let's say that I get a 6, 6, 6, and a 5, but I have a good quality writing, and most people are not interested in what I have to say. How would you grade those papers?
Honestly, I think the rankings, it's not part of the grade. The main grade, so the rankings fall into your class discussion questions. The main grade to obtain that 15% of the class discussion is what you say about their article. So in 150 words, you are going to be, just saying, here's what I thought about this, or here's what else I could add to this, or here's what I really liked them saying about this. That's really going to be, the 15%. If you got all 6s throughout the semester, it's really not going to affect your grade. It's really for me just to see articles that students are finding very interesting, that writings are very good.
We get to see those feedbacks, right, Kara? I mean, I'm just
the class discussions, yes. So that will be open for discussion. So when you submit, and when I open up the Canvas page for you to see, when you submit the article itself, right, your essay, that is not the discussion. You're going to make the submission. That's worth 20% of your grade. But you will see everybody's submissions. Then for the discussion, that's when you'll have one Word document or one entry that you're making into the discussion for each of the 6 articles that you've reviewed with your 150 word write-up, and everybody will see those discussion points that you've made. In the interest of time for the class, you're adding your thoughts, but the person who wrote the article does not necessarily have to go back to add to your thoughts. So
I'm sorry, but I have one more question.
Of course.
Real quick. So this is not like a traditional post by Wednesday, reply by 2 post by.
No, that's what I'm saying. These discussions, it's not your typical discussion.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, I think during the week, I found, to be thinking just during the week, and quite frankly, some of the discussion forums just almost seem like a waste of time in a sense, to be perfectly honest. I think that you'll find this much more academically rigorous, that you're really looking at relevant journal articles and not just, questions that you're just trying to come up with something to put a discussion point down. I think you should be thinking about this higher level thinking and areas that you're really interested in. I mean, each of you are in the accounting field in some capacity, so these should be topics that you want to know more about to begin with, and hopefully my goal would be to encourage you to further your just ideas of reading these articles outside of the classroom and seeing what's out there. So that's my main point with these articles, and then discussing other people's to see what other people are saying about these additional topics.
Great.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So then with the diagnostic test, the additional 20%, this is coming from the Wiley CPA text. So you will be pleased to know that it's not a real test in the traditional sense of a test. It's really a self-graded test where you will be answering every fourth question in the Wiley CPA review text. You already have the answers to these questions in the Wiley review text. They don't make traditional textbook versions of CPA review materials. So the goal here is that you're familiarizing yourself with the CPA exam materials. You're trying the questions on your own, and then you're seeing if you got the answer right or wrong. Please just, your submission is going to be your original answer, and then, your kind of idea of why you got the answer right or wrong. This is hopefully another easy 20%. So I want you to be very truthful with your right or wrong answers. If you, in the first module that's assigned for the Wiley CPA, you get all of them wrong, you're not going to get a 0. What I want to see is your just little write-up of understanding why you got it wrong. So in theory, you could get all of them wrong from the chapter and have good write-ups about why you got them wrong, and you will get a 100 on it. So it's really meant for self-review purposes. You're in a graduate course. I'm not as interested of you just cramming information into your head to forget it the next week. It's really meant for learning purposes, to be familiar with how CPA questions are worded, and even if you have no aspiration to go on for the CPA exam, it's still knowledge that I think would be beneficial in your future career. So again, just to reiterate what this will be, is every fourth question in the Wiley book, you will put together a Word document of some sort to actually submit to me. There will be a submission page on Canvas that you're posting your answers to. Nobody else will see your answers. This is between you and me. And you'll say if you got it right or wrong. And if you got it wrong, you're just talking about, your understanding of why you got the question wrong. And in the Wiley book, they give you feedback on why you got questions wrong. So it's really looking at the information, understanding why you got the question wrong, and learning from that. The Wiley book, as I've said, I try my best to coordinate with this external audit book, so a lot of chapters will have a lot of similarities between them. There will be some differences that I'll point out week to week, but you will, it's just, we've got the textbook, and then you've got your CPA review text. So they are different. It's a different kind of mindset between the both texts, but I think between the both you'll learn a lot. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the case simulations, I will be posting various simulations throughout each of the weeks. We don't have a simulation in week 1 or week 2. Because we're really just getting into the terminology and the introduction to audit. But we will get into case simulations. It's not one case study that we're just walking through. It'll be various things from looking at, you finding a company and doing analytical procedures on them, to analyzing possibly your own company and coming up with internal control issues that you see, to putting together documentation for various areas in the audit. And then actually completing the audit and putting together a set of financial statements and cash flow statements and footnotes and the sort. So each thing will be broken down individually, but they do start in week 3 and then obviously end in our week 7. So we'll get into those. So I kind of ease you into the first week because there actually aren't any CPA review questions either this first week. So I'll pop into Canvas to show you what this week looks like and then how future weeks will look as well. So any questions? And then you've got the little types of assignment write-ups here kind of saying what I've just said about each of the different areas.
I have a question. Sorry,
Sure.
I have a question about the diagnostic test.
Yes.
So I understand that you're answering every question. For every one that we get wrong, we're supposed to say why we got it wrong?
Yes. So basically, what's the right, because it's multiple choice. So I don't want you to answer A and say, oh, the answer was B, and just kind of leave it at that. It's more to say, I answered A because I thought that, in this internal control process, this would have been the compensating control, but it was really this because, and here's why I understand the new answer is correct. So just a couple of sentences, and you'll have the answer guide, so you'll see immediately really why your answer was wrong to begin with.
Right.
But it's really for your own learning purposes, and then to show to me that you understand why your answer was wrong and why the correct answer is right.
Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? So this will be everything, that we'll see in the weeks to come. And actually, I skipped through this tutoring services. It's kind of tough in the graduate program in terms of tutoring services for accounting. I'd say I'm the best tutor for this course, so see me if you're having any difficulty with the course. Because there is the writing element in this course when you are critiquing these articles, and I'm asking you to put this 2-page essay, if you will, into an APA format. If you're not familiar with that, or you start to struggle with your writing and just aren't comfortable with analyzing an article and what the summary should look like, I mean, at first, shot, we can discuss it, but you may want to consider using one of our writing tutors. Just a thought there that we do have that availability. So scrolling along, here's our course outline. I'm actually going to jump right into Canvas at this time so you can see exactly what the course outline looks like, especially for this week. But the course outline itself in your syllabus is pretty, well outlined of exactly which chapters we're going to be covering in each textbook, and I give you exactly the deliverables that you'll need to achieve each week. So I mean, going through here, if you check off each of these boxes that you've completed everything, you're good for the week. So looking at, and then it goes on. So I have everything listed for each week of the 7-week course. So all of the chapters, all of the deliverables, and so on. So before I go into Canvas, any questions on the syllabus? Further questions? Okay. All right, so let's see here if I can don't mind my email. Okay, everybody see our Canvas page? Can you see it?
No, you can't see it.
You can't
We still see the syllabus.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Can you see me? Let's see here. Okay, you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. My page is a little small. Sorry, bear with me. I think I might have shared the wrong thing. Hold on just a second. You see my page?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Okay, so here we are in week 1, and so I want to just spend a little bit of time on this because each of the weeks will look really almost exactly the same, although this week, we have our introduction. And so you'll see my little welcome video. And I do want you to just post a very brief video of yourself, introducing yourself. We don't have everybody on this call right now. So it'll be good just to do, 1-minute video just talking about why, and you can pop right in and see, why you're interested in this course, why it's important to your future career. So I give you the instructions. It's very easy to do, a brief video. So try to do that by the end of the week. It is considered a discussion point grade, so there is a grade associated with that. Everything that I have is in these modules. So, jumping right into the modules walks you through everything. For each kind of section, I have a question box. So if, as you're processing everything and have some further questions on the syllabus or just overall class overview, I'd prefer if you write your question in this question box, and this will be the same for each of the chapters that you're looking at, because I feel that if you have the question, there have already been some really great questions that everybody has had that benefit everybody else. So by writing it just here, I can answer it either just through a short video or just through a text comment back for the whole class to see. And I think that will help the rest of the class. So what you'll see is that you can see chapter 1 questions, chapter 2 questions, just anything, that's unclear in the chapter. You want another video, you want more clarification. It's just this learning objective doesn't make any sense to you. You really didn't understand what the self-review question was even talking about or where to find it in the text. Just ask your questions right here. And I'll obviously answer them I'd like to answer anything within a 24-hour, time frame, and hopefully even much sooner than that. So those will be there for each of the questions. So this is what your normal setup will look like. You'll have a Principles of External Audit subsection, an article subsection, and then once we have where you'll actually submit some Wiley questions. Here, it's just really, a background of understanding. And then when you have the case simulations, there will be a subsection for case simulation. So if you look at what the Principles of External Auditing Week will look like, here's where you'll post your self-review questions. And within that area, I post what the learning objectives are for that particular chapter, and where the pages are that you can find the questions themselves. They're not very difficult to find. I'll post supplemental videos, either external videos, I have a what is auditing for some of you. You're already in the profession, so you might not need to focus as much on these earlier chapters as you will in the later chapters. Or there might be videos that I'm actually just talking about, especially for the more difficult concepts. And then at any time, like I said with the questions, if something's not clear, I'm well trained now in how to do all of this video stuff. So, I'd like to post more videos than even just typing things back to you. So that's what the Principles of External Auditing chapters will look like. I forgot to say, for each week, I'll give the course overview. This is exactly coming from your syllabus. So you can see exactly what the deliverables are each week. So this is taken right from your syllabus, so just that you have it a little bit more handy each week. And then for the article submission, here's the article that you actually will submit. So your 2-page summary, as well as either a link to the article or, the actual PDF file or text file, whatever you want, of the full article. So if a student, is interested to read beyond your 2-page summary, they have the ability to read the article. Or maybe it's an article that I haven't read in the entirety, and I want to just have an easy access to it. So make sure, and I say that right in here, to not only submit your document, but also a link to the article itself. And I will say, if there is an issue of an article that you cannot find, I'd like to refer you to our librarian. So with these readings, this should almost be one of the first things you do each week is pick your article, so at least you have it, because that's one thing that I say definitely needs to be submitted by Friday each week. everything else you have until Sunday. But if you stumble with your article late Friday night, and you can't find a readily available article for one reason or another, I'm not going to be able to help much. I can do my best, but the librarian is really the best source, because you have to go into our library database perhaps. Most of these that I've searched for you can find just through regular Google Scholar or regular Google, but just if there's something that you're really further interested in for some reason don't have access to, the librarian will help most. And then here's where we'll post the discussion. So here again, I made a mistake. I realized in the syllabus I said 300 words per article submission. It's 100 words per student. So you've got 6 students in the course aside from you. So for each, and really 150 words is a little beyond a paragraph. So I'm not asking for a ton here. It's really just, I've already said, what do you like about it? What really stood out to you? What can you add to it? Really just kind of almost your gut reaction to the article. But I think by reading another student's article summary and then posting your own thoughts about it, you're certainly enhancing your learning overall. And then for the CPA review questions, this week you'll see in the syllabus there are no CPA review questions. The main gist with the first few chapters in the Wiley CPA review is to get you acclimated with the exam, and so on. So the videos and PowerPoints and links that I've posted here are really just about the CPA profession, about auditing, about the CPA exam. And then all I say down here, do you have any questions about the week 1 CPA? So you're still not really sure about the CPA. Maybe you plan to study for the exam right after this course ends and you want to put together a study plan. That's probably something we can talk about offline, but just really your immediate questions looking through the CPA review material. So in the future, what you'll see for Wiley is a place to submit your what we're calling diagnostic tests. So your right answers, and if it was wrong, why it's wrong, that you'd post here. And then you'd also see, starting in week 3, your case simulations. So another link for that. So that's really what the Canvas page layout will look like. Hopefully it's similar to what you've seen in other courses. Everybody is well acclimated with Canvas by now. So hopefully it's clear and very just easy to follow where things need to be submitted. So any questions on the Canvas page?
I'm sorry, but I have one more question about the article summary submission situation. So I get the summarizing it. That's perfectly clear. But the rest of it isn't exactly clear. Am I supposed to, like most of the discussions from the other classes, you're to cite 2 different sources and add to whatever that discussion is? Am I taking information from other sources and adding to that article, or is it pure original thoughts where it's only, what I think about it and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so there's definitely no requirement to, cite different sources, but it might be an article that you know something about already, and you've already read a piece of literature about this topic that you think is something worthwhile to contribute to the previous submission. But the main point in the discussion is that so somebody's almost, they've posted their thoughts. Now you're posting your thoughts. So it's just this opportunity to be reading through and posting your thoughts on this topic. But your thoughts could be derived from somebody else's thoughts, in the sense of maybe this is a topic that you're like, whoa, I really should have picked that article. This is something, let me see what additional readings there were, or let me even just do my own little Google Scholar search and see what other articles are out here. And this is really the next step for anybody wishing to pursue a doctorate degree, that it's an area of interest that you find. So if you just stumble upon, and you're not going to be interested in everybody's articles, you could read an article submission and be like, this, why would they ever choose this? This is the most boring topic, you could choose of all of them. You don't really have that much to contribute, but you have to contribute something. Or, this is a topic that you just love and you could go on, and you want to cite some other articles, but there's no requirement. So within the 150-word parameter, state your own thoughts, search, other ideas that are out there, look to see what other readings are out there, but there's no, it's really your thoughts on the topic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? All right, so we have just about 15 minutes. Hopefully you found this this part helpful. I wanted to just briefly talk about the two chapters that you'll be reading through in detail. So chapter 1, just looking at these learning objectives. So what is auditing? Again, most of you really have this background. I think everybody in class, really has a pretty good background in accounting already. Many of you have dealt with auditors or are currently auditors yourself. But just looking at these objectives and thinking through some of the most important things, some things that are sticking out to me to make sure, because the last thing I want you is to complete this program, and especially for the public accounting concentrations and the forensic accounting concentrations, to not know some of these differences. So it's important for me to go back to some of the basics, but looking at differences between audits is important to clarify in this class, because our class will be focused on financial statement audits, so the external auditing over financial statements. We're not looking at compliance audits or operational audits. The government comes in and audits, or the IRS comes in and audits people. My mom works as a medical coder, and she's always talking about the audits that they're coming in to conduct to make sure that they're doing the proper procedures in the coding department. That is not the focus of this course. So people use the terminology audit differently than I do. So we just have to be careful about clarifying which type of audit, and again, our focus is financial statement audit, but there are many types of audits out there, so you'll read more in the chapter about those. External and internal audit is one that's really important to make sure that you're clear on. Our focus, as you know, is external auditing, actually coming away with audited financial statements with an audit opinion would be you going in as the auditor and actually preparing the audit, versus internal auditors work for the company. They do not report to management. Usually they report directly to a board, but they're looking around internally in the company to make sure that everything is properly done. External auditors can rely on internal auditor information because they're not reporting directly to management. However, there's a very much distinction between the both, so make sure you're very clear on that. A lot of times, the difference between auditing and accounting is confused. You are not the accountant when you're the auditor, right? You review the prepared work, and that's something for those of you who are working in the profession to make sure that you're not preparing the work that you're then auditing. The point is really your client has prepared the work and you are auditing it and reviewing it, versus the accountant is the one who's actually preparing the work. So although I consider myself an accountant, my background is in auditing. So, I did work as a controller after my work in public accounting, but my background is much more review-based versus prepare-based. And the great thing about the role of the auditor is it really prepares you for that controller CFO position where you're not necessarily the staff accountant preparing the work papers. You're in a position of review, which is what the auditor does. So hopefully everybody's clear on that terminology. I have a video posted about, when and why financial statements are necessary. You'll be reading, the public companies, certainly it's necessary if you're reporting to the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission. However, a lot of non-public companies still choose to have their financial statements audited, and it may come from bank. Usually it's banking requirements. So they have loans with banks, and the banks are requiring them to conduct an audit. Or, for instance, Bay Path University, we receive financial aid from the government. So because of that, we're required to get an audit to make sure that we're in good financial standing and so forth. And some companies may choose to have an audit even if it's not required, and just to make sure that their books are nice and neat. And that might default to more of a review or compliance level if a full audit is not required because of the cost differences. So just be sure to know all of that. The benefits. This is one of the best reasons to be an auditor, because you really are making sure that the people who are relying on these financial statements have good, solid information to be making decisions about. And I think, sometimes people have this attitude about accountants or auditors that, we're just bean counters, we're really not contributing to make the world a better place. And I would definitely, feel much differently about that, especially given all of the corporate scandals, that the rules hadn't been followed. And we're in place to make sure that the rules are being followed and that companies' financial statements are stated materially correct, that people can make sound decisions. So many people rely on a company's financial health, even just the lowest level employee up to the highest level employee needs to make sure that they're working for a solid company. And I truly believe that being an accountant, and especially being an auditor, helps to make sure that fraudulent activities and various errors are not taking place. So feel very good about the profession that you're a part of, because it's, maybe you could say, required because people aren't making the best decisions, and if we weren't in place, that would be much more troublesome. But you are making a difference, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And then just gaining the benefits that can be gained from the financial statements, audits. So explain why the benefits to be gained from the financial statements audits are sometimes not obtained. This is kind of a little tricky one. Whenever they get to the last learning objectives, I feel that they're not always as important as the first couple. But why are they not obtained? I'm rereading this, and I'm not really sure myself, thinking through it. So we can just kind of think that this one, I'd say if they're not being obtained, they're just not. Actually, I'm drawing a blank on this one. I apologize. So maybe somebody can enlighten me on this. But I think overall you gain benefit from these financial statements, and I think that really coincides with what we were saying in number 6. So that's really chapter 1, objectives in a nutshell. This is what I'd like to do on these Monday evenings, just kind of talk about these as you start the week, to think about what you're reading and doing. Again, they'll be recorded if you're not able to chime in, and I'll be posting additional supplemental videos and videos that I've done that may be helpful along the way as well. So just in our last few minutes here, taking a look at chapter 3, and the framework of auditing. Let's see some of these key concepts here. So this chapter is looking at the overall framework of auditing, and some of the keywords that should even just jump out to you right away with classes that you've taken already is this credibility of the auditor's work, that auditors need to be independent, and by independence, you can't own stock in a company that you're auditing. You can't have a relationship. You can't be the auditor and be married to the CFO. Lots of independence. And we always say with independence that you need to be independent in fact and in appearance. So when we say things like that, the in fact part is, yes, you don't own stock in the company's shareholdings. but the in appearance part is the part that, you know, is a little bit gray. Well, what does in appearance mean? And I've been a part of many conversations where, you know, you become close with your clients, and there is the partner rotation. So when you're partner of the firm, you do have to rotate off the clients. But for staff and management level, they do not need to rotate off. So clients that I had, I became really close with, you know, and it's like you form friendships and things like that, and you just have to be very careful about what that in appearance looks like. You know, if you're going out golfing with your clients, or, you know, we would take clients to Red Sox games and things like that, you know, you just have to be careful about what that line is, and that line is not set in stone. So just thinking through that. Obviously, the competence of auditors, as you know, you need to obtain this additional education to become a CPA and do, you know, additional audit work. So there's a lot of competence placed in the profession, and we talked already about the ethical conduct that, you know, this profession requires top ethical decision making, and you know, it is a profession that I'm very proud of. And you know, with students, as I had said before, acting, you know, without integrity, it just calls into question if you're really the type of person who should be in this profession. And I know each of you are, but it's just something to think about, that you're representing yourself, but also the profession. So you really have to think of the big picture there. We'll definitely be getting into the audit process throughout this course, how to collect evidence, the concept of materiality. Is really that when we're auditing, we can't possibly audit 100% of the company. It would cost a fortune to do so. So we create a materiality, which we'll talk about, and we select scopes to be able to you know, form this audit risk that we're willing to accept, and it's based on this concept of materiality. So we will certainly be getting into different audit opinions and things like that, but we are assuring that these financial statements are free from material misstatement. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single dollar is necessarily correct on those financial statements. It means that would somebody make a different decision if the number was different? You know, is it materially important to the users of the financial statements? And that is a gray area for auditors, and that's where a lot of materiality levels and looking at different scopes would be, you know, something that a higher level auditor may come up with, especially over high risk areas. We'll be talking more about audit risks. So this is definitely an introduction to it. Judgment and skepticism. I always would keep my audit skepticism hat. Even, you know, you become friends with your client, and you still have to maintain that audit skepticism, thinking, how could this person get away with something? And for those who are in the forensic accounting concentration, you know, this is really kind of it, that, you know, the nicest person in the world could be stealing funds, but they're nice, and you never think they do that. But as auditors, we have to maintain that mentality that they could be doing something. And you hate to kind of think negatively about something, and you kind of keep your thoughts to yourself, but that should be how your wheels are turning when you're thinking about the audit process, is really, how could these numbers be wrong? And it might not even be through fraudulent behavior. It could be through errors. How could an error transpire in the system? Am I sure that I'm looking at everything properly to make sure that there is no way a material error or misstatement or misconduct happened? So you'll be introduced to the audit process, but we'll be getting more into that in class. And then looking at the standards of the audit work. So, you know, are you practicing due care? Do you have a quality control procedure? So this is definitely just, you know, the framework of overall auditing concepts. And so that's really the gist. I know I kind of flew through a lot in this 1 hour. So I apologize to be a speed talker, but again, this is recorded, so you can go back to it at any time. I'll flip back to myself. Let's see if, oops. All right, I'm here. Can you see me? Everybody good? Hi, Sam. I see you. Everybody else, I think, muted.
Hi, Karen. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. So any questions so far? I think, it's pretty, I think you'll find the process to be pretty smooth, and I want to be available for any questions that you have and anything else that I can help clarify. And again, I think because of the range of students in this class, some of it might feel like areas that you've already seen or heard of, but I think you'll find with, the different areas in this course that you'll keep picking up pieces, and it will progressively get to a more advanced state as we move along. Sound good?
It's all good.
All right. Well, enjoy the week. I'll look forward to seeing your submissions throughout the week. I'll have everything. My goal would be to grade everything on Monday. So everything that you've posted during the week, I'd end up posting grades on Monday for you, and just kind of keep up with everything. But aside from those articles due Friday night, everything else is due by Sunday night. So use your time wisely and just however it's most appropriate for you during the week. All right.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm going to stop broadcasting now, and I'll post this a little bit later tonight so you have it if you need it. And then in the future, I'd have, chapter kind of summaries of those learning objectives with additional videos, and just conduct this for about a half an hour if we feel we need it on Mondays, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.